Good afternoon. It's Friday, the 12th of June. I'm Erin Viner. This is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. CEO of the French mobile giant Orange, Stéphane Richard, met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem this morning in efforts to clarify what he is calling a huge misunderstanding that erupted over comments he made in Cairo last week that his company would sever operations with its Israeli franchise, Partner Communications. Richard arrived in Israel yesterday and also held talks with executives at Partner in attempts to clear up the matter. Today, he reiterated his claims of never intending to boycott the Jewish state and continued to insist that his words were taken out of context.
No secret that the remarks you made last week were widely seen as an attack on Israel, and so your visit here is an opportunity to set the record straight. Israel is the one country in the Middle East that guarantees full civic rights. It's the one country in the Middle East where everyone is protected under the law equally. We seek a genuine and secure peace with our Palestinian neighbors, but that can only be achieved through direct negotiations between the parties without preconditions. It will not be achieved through boycotts and through threats of boycotts.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for your invitation. It's an honor to meet with you this morning, and it gives me also an opportunity to clear up the confusion that was created after those statements. I regret deeply this controversy. And I want to make it totally clear that Orange, as a company, has never supported and will never support any kind of boycott against Israel. We are doing business, we are doing communication, we are here to connect people, certainly not to participate in any kind of boycott. Israel is a fantastic place to be in the digital industry, and of course our will is to strengthen and to keep on investing here.
Alert sirens blared in the south last night, warning of a possible Palestinian-fired missile from Gaza. The rocket failed to pass into Israeli territory and instead fell short into the Palestinian enclave. U.S. and Western officials say that the world powers are prepared to accept a nuclear agreement with Iran that doesn't immediately answer questions about its previous work on atomic weapons, even though Washington is on the record asking for such concerns to be resolved in any final deal. After the November 2013 interim accord, the Obama administration said that a comprehensive solution would include the resolution of questions over the possible military dimension to nuclear development in the Islamic Republic. But the latest announcement from sources involved in the talks say that won't happen, echoing the assessment from the head of the United Nations Nuclear Agency earlier this week. Much of Iran's alleged work on warheads, delivery systems, and detonators predates 2003, when much of its nuclear activity first came to light. But Western intelligence agencies say that they don't know the extent of those activities or if Tehran has persisted in covert efforts. An investigation by the International Atomic Energy Agency has been foiled for more than a decade by Iranian refusals to permit visits by monitors to suspicious sites or to interview individuals allegedly involved in secret weapons development. Officials are now saying that the U.S. and its negotiating partners are working on a list of future commitments Iran must fulfill in an agreement setting decade-long curbs on its nuclear program in exchange for billions of dollars in sanctions relief. The suspension of some of the punitive economic measures would be tied to Iran finally answering all questions, giving world powers greater leverage. U.S. State Department officials are expressing confidence that there haven't been any security breaches during the Iranian nuclear negotiations. This comes in the wake of a report published by the Wall Street Journal accusing Israel of hacking into the servers at several European hotels where the P5+1 nations are holding talks with Iran to infect computers with a sophisticated virus. Officials in Austria are conducting their own investigation into the allegations, as is Switzerland, where staffers at the Attorney General's office say that computer equipment and unspecified information technology material has been seized over suspicions illegal intelligence services may have been operating in Geneva. Israeli officials are vehemently denying the report, which has been dismissed by Deputy Defense Minister Rabbi Eli Ben-Dahan as utter nonsense. He went on to say that Jerusalem already has sufficient methods to find out what's going on in the talks without having to resort to hacking. Can an agreement with Tehran actually tame its nuclear ambitions, and how will the deal affect Israeli security? Those are some of the questions that IBA's Efrat Batat asked of Iranian affairs expert Meir Javedan Far of the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya.
We haven't seen the final draft of the deal yet, but so far from what I've heard, I think yes. And most importantly, not because of the technical aspects of the deal, which I think are quite strong, but because of the political decision in Iran. If the Khamenei has decided to make so many compromises, he made couple of red lines publicly, and he's turning them into white lines now. All of a sudden they're becoming invisible. It shows that he has made the political decision that now it's not the right time, at least not in the next 15 years, to make a nuclear weapon for Iran. Iran has made too many enemies abroad, and the Iranian economy is far too weak to be able to withstand sanctions.
So do you believe that a deal with Iran would offer the best possible outcome for Israel's security?
At least for the next 15 years, I think yes. I think for a number of reasons, because it blocks Iran's path to the plutonium. You know, the heavy water reactor, the core of it, is going to be destroyed. And I emphasize, destroyed. There's going to be new core going to be introduced and built, which will not be able to produce plutonium in the quantities that could be used to make a weapon, as a byproduct, of course. The number of centrifuges is going to be reduced. The amount of and I emphasize this, it's very important for your viewers to understand this. Iran, for the next 15 years, is going to have only 300 kilograms of low-enriched uranium. Fact, 300 kilograms of low-enriched uranium is not enough to make a nuclear weapon with old centrifuges or even advanced centrifuges. So for the next 15 years, I think this is a deal that technically secures the future of the State of Israel.
And this wouldn't have been achieved without this deal?
I don't think we would have, but I think there's another thing that's very important for your viewers to understand. We're going to have inspectors on the ground every single day. Having UN inspectors on the ground checking the centrifuges, checking the quality of uranium, quantity of uranium, this is something that's to the benefit of the State of Israel and the United States. Because if they weren't doing the job, then the United States or other countries would have to send spies or try to, penetrate Iranian intelligence to find out what's going on. But now we're going to have inspectors going in and checking them and reporting what's going on to the outside world. Another note for your viewers, which is very important to understand. Iran was working on a nuclear weapon till 2003. We know this, at least till 2003. Until now, they have not been forthcoming regarding what they've done till 2003. They've been stonewalling, playing games. I understand, and this is to be confirmed, that one of the conditions for the sanctions to be removed is for Iran to have to come clean. Either publicly or privately, we need to know how far they got. And this is something that this deal is going to achieve, and this is something that without this deal, it would have been very difficult for us to achieve.
So if I understand correctly, you're optimistic that this is not just sheer diplomacy, it's not just done to relieve them of their sanctions, that there's a good basis for this deal.
My optimism is because I realize that the Iranian regime has realized that they've miscalculated. That they realized that after killing their own people in 2009, they realized that when they called the people to rally around the flag to withstand sanctions, the people of Iran did not do that, because they saw the same regime that's calling for their support was killing them. So the regime has failed, and I think first and foremost, I'm optimistic because I believe that the political decision has been made in Iran to compromise. But number two, I think President Obama has realized that the Iranian regime is far more scared of sanctions than a military attack. This is a complete opposite to the Israeli view. And he's used it, he's leveraged it very well, and he's reaching a deal, I think, that will be very good for us.
The IDF will not take action to help hundreds of thousands of Druze in Syria who are under threat from Islamist terrorists in an area near the Israeli border. This, according to today's Haaretz newspaper, reporting that this decision was recently reached by both government and military leaders, despite the great risk facing the Druze community from both the Islamic State and the al-Nusra Front terror factions. Members of the Druze community here in Israel are voicing deep concern over the fate of their kinsmen in Syria, saying that at least 1.5 million are in extreme danger. Community leaders recently met with President Reuven Rivlin and IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot to warn them of the danger as the rebels advance further south. The Druze elders also held talks with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah this week to ask for his help. Israel has so far been able to avoid direct involvement in Syria's civil war during the 4 years of fighting, fearing an even greater spilling of violence over the northern border. The Deputy Minister of Regional Cooperation, Ayub Kara, who is a Druze member of the Likud party, is calling the situation a human tragedy and has expressed his commitment to doing everything possible to assist the Druze living in Syria, saying that we must help them like we would help any person from any nationality or religion who's in trouble. Family members of the late American Keith Broomfield say that he believed in opposing evil, speaking out following confirmation from the U.S. State Department of his death while he was fighting alongside Kurdish forces against the Islamic State near the Syrian border town of Kobani.
I have just a real peace about what has happened. Is it hard? Sure. I went to my kids and just cried with them about it. It's a tough thing, but we have a peace about it.
Former cabinet minister and Knesset member Shoshana Arbeli Amos-Lino passed away today at the age of 89 after a long battle with Alzheimer's disease. She immigrated from Mosul, Iraq in 1947 and helped to found Kibbutz Neve Ur 2 years later. She served as an MK for the Alignment and Labor parties for nearly 3 decades between 1966 and 1992 and was the nation's Minister of Health between 1986 and 1988. After retiring from her political career, Arbeli Amos-Lino continued working to promote the status of women and Iraqi Jewry in the country. Spain's lower house of parliament has granted final approval of a law setting up a citizenship path for the descendants of Jews exiled from the country in 1492 after being forced to either convert to Christianity or risk being burned at the stake. The new legislation allows Sephardic Jews who are interested to start applying for Spanish citizenship this coming October within a 3-year time frame. Receipt of a Spanish passport also comes with the right to work and live anywhere in the 28-nation European Union. The Spanish Federation of Jewish Communities applauded the measure, saying that it marks a new stage in historical relations between Spain and the Jewish world. The vote follows similar actions from Portuguese law last March that also offers citizenship for Jews whose ancestors were forced to leave the country. But Lisbon pretty much only requires the thorough vetting of the applicant's roots by Jewish organizations, whereas Madrid is instituting similar criteria faced by permanent residents seeking Spanish citizenship, such as basic Spanish language skills and the passing of a current events and culture test about Spain. Applicants also need to establish a modern-day link to the country, which could be as simple as donating to a Spanish charity or as expensive as purchasing property. Hundreds of Bedouin and their supporters gathered outside government offices in Beersheba to protest against the impending demolition of the unrecognized village of al-Hiran and its intended replacement with a Jewish town of 2,500 housing units. The demonstration follows a decision from the Supreme Court last month rejecting the residents' appeal after finding that they had no legal right to the village, which was illegally constructed on state land. Several members of Knesset from the Joint Arab List participated in the demonstration, which is part of a larger campaign against the government's controversial initiative to resettle the Bedouin communities in legal towns. The protesters carried signs reading "No to demolition, yes to recognition," and denouncing the dismantlement of their homes as crimes against civilians as they marched from the open-air market to the municipal buildings. Earlier this week, Joint Arab List Chairman Ayman Odeh warned that the demolition of al-Hiran will be a game-changer in Arab-Israeli relations. Attorney General Yehuda Weinstein has instructed police to open an additional criminal probe of former Tel Aviv District Attorney Ruth David, who was initially arrested over allegations that she obstructed the investigation into Ronel Fisher. David is also now being accused of illegal conduct for allegedly receiving gifts from the prominent attorney while she served as the chief Tel Aviv prosecutor between 2002 and 2010 before joining Fisher's law firm. There is no evidence, however, to indicate that David may have illegally influenced the outcome of cases she was involved in at the time. In financial news, the shekel today ended the trading week with a mixed performance, and due to the closure of the stock market on Fridays, here's a look at the closing numbers for the week. The IBA weather team says we can expect ideal conditions this weekend with sunny blue skies and no significant change in temperatures. Here's the forecast at home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow when Aria O'Sullivan will be at this desk with the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a great evening and Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem.